First and foremost, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Julio Petrovic. I'm product manager for NetAlly. And today, we'll be covering a few different things. Here's the topics. First, I know there's a lot of new people here at WLPC this year. So we'll talk a little about who or what is NetAlly, just in case you guys don't know. We'll also do a quick review on the few releases we've done throughout the last few months. As you guys know, we're basically a fairly new company, and we'll be talking about that in a moment. And then we'll be talking about what's next. There's a few announcements, something that's secret until we get there, and a few other things. And then last, for those that are here, and that's why you see a little magic bowl, we'll be giving away a few things. One of those is an AirCheck G2 full kit, about $3,200 in value. So the lucky guy will take that one home. We have a few t-shirts, backpacks, so you can carry your swag, and so on. So that's at the end, but when we're done. So just in case, if you're not here for the raffle, basically, you're out of luck. You have to be here to win. Yep. Okie doke. So, who or what is NetAlly? Basically, even though you may have not heard the name before, we're a company that technically has been on the market for 26 years. We also have more than 50,000 customers on 70 countries around the world. We have what we call the Link Live community, which is more than 20,000 users. And we are basically not the smallest of companies or startups. We're more than 100 employees. Basically, we specialize on creating tools to help simplify the validation, troubleshooting, and provide visibility, and enhance the collaboration between peers or coworkers by providing different types of tools. And maybe this will make it a little easier to recognize who we are. For example, between 1993 and 2015, we developed a few tools, the Lamp Meter, for example, the original AirCheck, the Link Runner AT, and many others. Basically, during that time, we're part of a company you may be familiar with called the Fluke Networks. So during that time, many of our tools were yellow instead of green. Then a few years ago, from 2015 to 2019, we became part of another company called NetScout. So you may be familiar with that name also, and developed tools like the AirCheck G2, the Link Runner G2. And then just recently, on October 2019, and that's why the name may not be familiar to everyone, we became our own independent company called NetAlly. So we're not part of the other two companies I mentioned earlier anymore. We're just our own company now. So technically, even though we've been working on this for 26 years, we're like a startup. So, because we've only been on the market for, well, I don't know, a few months, technically. And as part of that already, we released a new product called the Etherscope NXG, which you guys may have seen before. It's basically a combined 10 gig and Wi-Fi tester. So now that you know who we are, what we specialize ourselves on, just in case here's a list of the products that are part of NetAlly. You have the AirCheck, which it may be familiar to many. You have the Link Runner. You have the Etherscope, which is our newest addition to the product line. OneTouch, Link Sprinter, which are the little guys that you plug in to test the network. You have the Link Live Cloud solution. And for those that have been on the business for a while, you also have the AirMagnet product line. So all those products are now part of NetAlly. So that's basically who we are. So again, you may know our product names more than our company name, but now you know who we are. Then, now that we know that, Just a few things we've done since we became NetAlly in October. Just a reminder, because we've done a few announcements. For example, I think the last time we talked about this may have been at WLPC in Prague, just a few months ago. And even though some of you may have been there, some of you may have not. So there's a few of the things we've released since October. For example, the first thing we released when we became NetAlly is the AirCheck G2 B4 software. This one basically enhances your existing AirCheck, which has been on the market for some time now, and adds AX visibility. So now you can identify AX devices, clients, or APs. You can see all the settings or configuration for AX devices, etc. We also included as part of that release iPerf test results on Link Live, which was a very popular request at the time. People wanted to see their throughput test results up in the cloud. So that way you don't have to be on site. You can just send an AirCheck somewhere, tell a local guy, even if he doesn't know anything about Wi-Fi, hey, run this test there, and basically results go to the cloud. You don't need to be on site. Saving time. I add to that collaboration part. Another thing we added is uploading the log files. This, again, was a very popular request. People wanted the details of what happens during a connection test, a roaming test, and now that all that is going to the cloud, so you can access that remotely. So that was included on before. And then, besides the AirCheck release, even though we released the Etherscope NXG just after October, we also had a new release for it, or software patch for it, basically enhancement, in December, called version 1.1. So if you guys have an Etherscope and you haven't updated, highly recommended. And on this one, there's a lot of stuff, so I'll skip a lot of it, but I'll just highlight a few of the things that were the biggest parts as a reminder for you guys. Like VLAN IDM monitoring. So you can see, for example, monitor the VLANs on a network. Enhanced XDP analysis for nearest switch port. Remember that the Etherscope is a combination of 10 gig testing and Wi-Fi, so a lot of the features are not Wi-Fi related. They're also copper or Ethernet related. You also have 802.1x with EAP type selection, MAC spoofing alerts. So you can now start also using the Etherscope not only as a troubleshooting tool, but it's moving more into also the security part, where you can see spoofed MAC addresses and other things. We also enhanced the discovery section of the Etherscope, where you have TCP port scanning, SSH, Telnet name authorization, so you have a bunch of extra tools available on the discovery section. You can add custom names for APs or authorization type. So is it a neighbor? Is it one of my devices? Is it a rogue device? And so on. And we added a lot of search capabilities to make it easier to find your AP. After all, if there's 1,000 APs, it will be difficult to find yours. So it makes it a lot easier. So then, besides that, and let me see, I didn't skip one. There's a bunch of other stuff that we added in there. Again, just too many things to cover today. Like external directional antenna support for Y.1564 as a frame type, packet loss trend graphs, improved test accessory support. So it's easier to find your test accessories. Just in case, for those that don't know what a test accessory is, I know the name is a little generic. Basically, it's a pocket-sized iPerf server that you just plug into any port, and you can synchronize with it to run an iPerf test. We'll see a picture of it in a few moments. We also included, as part of this, a ping test app. So if you want to run ping tests and to see the delay on the network, etc., you can have that there. One big request, although it may sound a little weird, on version 1.0 of the Etherscope, the fan that keeps the device cool was a little noisy. So we reduced that by a lot, so it's a lot quieter now. And you also have the option of saving the results locally. So if for X or Y reason you can't use a cloud service like Link Live, you don't need to. You can save the results as a JSON file on the device and generate your own reports directly from the device. So those are a few of the things we've done since we became NetAlly in October. But I'm sure what you really want to know is what's next, or what are we going to come up with. And there's a few different things. But first, let's get it out of the way and talk about the elephant in the room. So everyone wants to know what's going on with AirMagnet. When we announced the brand a few months ago, that was one of the first questions that came up. Hey, what are you guys doing different from previous owners of the brand, which I already mentioned earlier. And basically, it took us some time, but we took a look at the software, the condition of the product itself, how many customers are still using it, how many customers are still buying it. And after reviewing all that information, we decided, hey, it seems like even though AirMagnet is not what it used to be, after all, as some of you guys may know, it's been a few years without some updates sometimes, depending on the product, there's still a lot of people out there looking for this solution. So we've decided to give it a try, and we'll be releasing new software updates for AirMagnet. These software updates will come out in April. The two first of the AirMagnet products that we'll be updating are AirMagnet Survey Pro with version 9.3 and AirMagnet Spectrum XT with version 4.0. And you'll be wondering, what are we including there? So there's a few things we'll be including in there. First, we'll be including Wi-Fi 6 support, which, as you guys know, it's something that's required these days. Everyone does it, even though there's not a lot of clients still out there. Another thing that we'll be doing is iPerf 3 and test accessory support. So this is a historical thing that I always found pretty weird. I've been with the company for like 16 years. But in the past, you may have noticed that even though we had, as part of the two companies I mentioned earlier, the handhelds, and we also had the AirMagnet software, for some reason, there was never real integration between the products. It was like AirMagnet was on its own little island or separate silo. So one thing we're doing is that we're adding a little more integration, and you'll be able now to use, for example, the test accessory, which is the pocket-sized iPerf server I mentioned earlier, with your survey solution, or the AirMagnet Survey Pro. So we're moving towards integrating these solutions. After all, well, we're a smaller company now. We're not part of a big company that decides how they want to invest their resources. So hey, let's take what we got and make the best out of it. A few other things, as you may imagine, we have a very big backlog of antenna patterns, so we'll be updating that. We also, interestingly enough, have been in contact with a few other AP vendors, and we'll be adding support for AP names as transmitted on the beacons for both Extreme and Mist networks on this release. And then for Spectrum XT, we'll also be adding Wi-Fi 6 support and a few other things. So basically, we want to let know our AirMagnet customers that, hey, we want to have your back, different from previous owners of the brand. Still, now that you know this, one thing you may be wondering is, what about something new? What about what we like to call a better way to survey? Maybe something that doesn't require a laptop, doesn't require a dongle, or doesn't require a tethered device. So something a little more simple to use for those that, hey, just want to perform a basic survey. Well, think of it this way. What would happen if you try to squeeze some of the AirMagnet survey capabilities into the handheld devices, like an Etherscope NXG, for example? Well, basically, what we came up with after answering that question is what we call the AirMapper site survey app. Basically, it's an app that will be included on version 1.2 of the Etherscope. And it allows you to import a floor plan on your Etherscope, calibrate as you normally do, provide signal propagation assessment information, and then basically from your own Etherscope or your device, just in case, here's how it looks. You just walk around and tap on the screen to collect the data. So instead of carrying around your own phone or tablet or laptop, climbing up on a stair, I don't know, 30 feet up in the air, risking dropping that thing and breaking it, you could use a more ruggedized solution that's designed to be outdoors, basically, or work on the field. And basically, you can carry it where other devices are normally at. So for example, you normally use your phone, your tablet, etc., at the same level where you're standing, instead of on your sides and so on. So basically, this solution is a little different than other solutions, including AirMagnet at the time. And the idea is that instead of having to carry around a laptop with dongles or tethered devices, risking damaging your phone, etc., you have something a little easier. Not only that, what do you do? Oh, a little detail before I even forget. This will also be available for the AirCheck G2 on Q3. So it's not only for the Etherscope, but if you have an AirCheck, you will also get the survey app in there.
Will there be feature parity with those?
That's right.
How about, is there feature parity between the...
Yep, there will be the same capabilities and feature between both. The only difference is the OS, since the Etherscope is basically Android and the AirCheck is Linux. It will be different OSs, but it's basically the same capability. So anyway, then the other part here is like, hey, so I have my handheld device, I go around and do a survey. How do I share that with others? Or how do I visualize the heat maps? A small screen like the one on the AirCheck or Etherscope may be too small to really see what I want to see. So you'll have the ability of not only collaborating by uploading information to LinkLive, which is our cloud-based repository, you'll also be able to generate the heat maps directly on LinkLive. So instead of restricting yourself to Windows, like with AirMagnet, Mac, like with other products, iOS, etc., any device with a browser will allow you to basically review your heat maps. And you'll have all the basic filtering tools, all the common heat maps that are included. So basically, an easier way to collaborate. Think of it this way. Let's say that you're in charge of managing 30 different sites. And instead of traveling back and forth between sites or spending time troubleshooting each one or surveying each one, now you could, for example, send an AirCheck or an Etherscope on site, tell someone locally, he doesn't need to be an IT guy, there's no need to be a Wi-Fi expert. Just let's say a manager that's on the local site. Tell him, yeah, turn this on, click that little button or tap on the little screen where it says survey. And then just start walking around, tapping on the screen. After that, upload that to the cloud, and now you get all the visibility, and whoever collected the data doesn't need to have any knowledge about what he was doing or what he was collecting. So it's an easier way for those that need something more simple or need better collaboration. Notice that the way we're highlighting this product is as a more simple solution. So don't think of it as a replacement for some of the other products on the market. It's more something that, hey, I need to do a simple survey I just want to go out there, maybe have a conference room. I don't want to pull out all my equipment. I just want to do a quick heat map. So with the handheld, it makes it a lot easier in that way. So it's something simple for enterprise networks, field engineers that just need to get the job done. For the 80% that doesn't know how Wi-Fi works and just wants something simple. Few details. Like I mentioned, this will be available in April for both the Etherscope and Link Live. For the AirCheck G2, what we're calling currently V5, it will be sometime in Q3. Another thing you may be wondering, how much will this cost? Is there an extra cost to this extra capabilities? Well, basically, if you have a Link Live account and you have the AirMapper tool or app on your device, it's free. So you'll be able to just upload the heat maps to the cloud and see all the heat maps in there. Notice that we'll be adding like an extended capabilities that you can see have more filtering tools, more heat maps available. Those are also free on Link Live, but they will be enabled if you have a support contract on the device itself or the handheld. So if you have support on your handheld, then you get access to all the extended capabilities on Link Live. So we're not moving away from the free Link Live capabilities in there. Another part that's important to highlight, as you guys may know, not everyone likes the idea of using a cloud service. Or maybe they have a product like AirMagnet, and they still want to use that product as part of their heat map generation. So in a future version of the AirMagnet software, we'll also be adding the capability of importing the information from the handheld device, the Etherscope, or the AirCheck, and just using the AirMagnet tool as a viewer to basically just generate the heat maps, reports, and so on. That will basically remove the need of having to walk with a laptop, a bunch of dongles, etc. For those that are familiar with AirMagnet, it will also bring back or work around the limitation of dongles that can't measure noise or SNR accurately. And basically, you don't have to carry that big thing around anymore. Just a little AirCheck or an Etherscope. So that's something that's also coming out in the future. So, you're really wondering, is there more besides that? Yes, there is. Regretfully, I can't tell you everything on this session, because we need to have something for the release in April. Else it'll be like, okay, I told the guys everything I have, and now I have nothing to talk about. So, when we are ready to release the Etherscope 1.2 and our AirCheck G2 B5 software, we'll be highlighting the other enhancements we'll be adding. Notice that the AirMapper app is just one of those enhancements that I wanted to highlight today. So we'll be talking about the rest later or in the future. For now, though, I'll be doing a live demo to show you how it looks like. A little piece of advice here. This is still like alpha code. So please don't blame me if there's, I don't know, some hiccups. But we'll see how it goes. Oh, just in case, while I load this in here. If any of you guys already has an Etherscope, for example, and you would like to help or participate with beta testing next month, feel free to let me know after this session. And we'll be happy to add you to the beta testers list. Meanwhile, so here's how the Etherscope screen looks like. I'm sharing the screen of my Etherscope here live. So one thing, for those that are familiar with the Etherscope, and we don't want to go through everything in here, the biggest thing you'll see on the home screen that's different is this little icon here called Survey. That's basically the new AirMapper app. And it's pretty straightforward. Just tap in there. And there's a small delay while sending the data. In this case, I already have a heat map in there. But technically, you'll be given different options. Let's go to settings here. For example, you can, again, this is very simple. You can assign a name to the project, any descriptions, select the image. Notice that when you select the image, you'll be asked to calibrate. So you get the correct dimensions for the image. And you also have the signal propagation assessment, or sample radius, that you want to select in there. So basic settings for data collection. After you got the heat map in here, you'll see it on the screen. Notice that, like any other smart device, you can zoom in, zoom out, etc. So let's say for this project here, I want to start, or I just want to survey this area with cubicles here. That's all I want to do. I don't really need the entire floor plan. I just want to go out there and see what's going on that cubicle area there. So you may have noticed this little start button up here. So just tap in there. One thing for those that are familiar with the Etherscope, you'll see up here the channels that are being, that are being scanned. Up there, so you can see all the channels as they scan. Now we're talking about that. One little thing I forgot to mention. One of the capabilities or options that we'll be including, besides the survey tool on version 1.2, and I'm not sure I was supposed to mention this one until April, but let's do it now since it's related, is that you'll have the capability of selecting what channels to scan and for how long. So you could, for example, if you don't care about the DFS channels, disable those. If you're only doing the 2.4 or the 5, you can select which one you want to do. And that helps with scan time, as you can imagine, because it's less channels to scan. You can also select and say, okay, I want to scan this channel for 105 milliseconds. Or you can scan them for 250 milliseconds if you want, etc. So you have more options depending on what you're trying to achieve. So anyway, in this case, I'm scanning all the channels. So basically, what will happen, let's say I'm on this corner of the building down here. So you'll just tap in there. Notice that, again, this is still alpha. But what will happen is that to make it easier on the user and not basically assume that they know how to survey, we'll have the user wait for the color of the circle to change. So it was red, so just wait for the scan to finish. Then we'll go green. One thing I'm thinking about, and we may do this as part of this release maybe in the future, is to add something more graphical, like it changes slowly color so you can see there's something going on. But for now, it's going from red to green. So you're done with that data point. Let's say I want to go here now. Same thing. Basically, the person that's scanning or walking around will basically just wait a few seconds for it to scan through all the channels. When it gets green, move on to the next point. And so on it goes. You guys, everyone here knows how to do a survey, so I won't bore you going through the entire thing. But basically, he will just continue following best practices, going the hallways, in between cubicles, if necessary, into the cubicles, and so on, collecting his data. When they're done, they just click up here where it says stop. That will give them the option of providing a name, comments, etc., and basically upload those files to the cloud. That will basically upload the file to Link Live. And now you may be wondering how that looks on Link Live. So let's take a quick look in here. Also notice that the Link Live part is still also on alpha, so it's not perfect yet. So I apologize for any hiccups ahead of time. So for those that are familiar with Link Live, as you guys know, this is just a cloud-based management and test results repository tool that we have available for free. You can access it anytime. You can even create an account if you don't have one of our tools. But basically now we're adding the heat mapping capabilities on Link Live. So you have all the basic tools that you've seen in the past, like all the normal test results. And let me show you that just in case you haven't seen it before. But if you want to see, for example, independent test results, oops, sorry, that's the list of units there. Test results here. So you can look at different test results for both the wired and wireless side. You can keep track of all your tools or your units. So you have a list of all the units that you have available. You can also save files up there, like reports, images, etc. You can also basically download apps. Remember that being an Android device, you have the option of downloading any apps into it. You have the analysis part. For those that are familiar with AirMagnet, the analysis part may remind them a little about what Wi-Fi Analyzer used to provide, or still provides. But basically, a lot of the analysis that Wi-Fi Analyzer did is now also on the handhelds, on the Etherscope. And then this little new icon down here is the heat map itself, where you can select any of your projects. Let's say this one up here. Click on View Heat Map. Let's give it a few seconds. Okie doke. So it will load the heat map, the floor plan first. After that, it will load the heat map. Like I mentioned, we're still in alpha, so by the time it gets released, it won't take so long to do it. Then, by default, it will show you signal strength or the signal coverage heat map. This ain't the best example. Whoever did this didn't follow best practices and just took a bunch of random points all over the place. So I apologize for the bad example here. But you'll have options for other heat maps like noise, SNR, transmit or receive rates, MCS information, and so on. You'll also have multiple filtering tools available. So if you want to filter by SSID, band, channel, BSID, APs, etc., you have that there. And one of the coolest parts on the filtering tool, or at least compared to, for example, AirMagnet on itself or some other products, is that same as with the Etherscope, you have the ability, it's like a chain type of filtering. So you select, for example, only this, let's see, I think it was this one, this SSID. And basically, oops, wrong place, there we go. So let's say you select that SSID there, and basically that will automatically update the filtering options and everything else. So it will only show you the band for that SSID, or the bands for that SSID, or the channel, and so on. So basically it will be like a chain reaction when you filter in there. And after that, you can just click on close, and that will refresh the heat map for you. Oh, one thing you will notice while we wait in here, on the upper right, you'll see the familiar tags that we use with Link Live. So there's little tags in here. Normally they'll be a little closer to this side. I apologize again for the alpha code. But basically you'll see little tags that will show you by what you've been filtering. And you have other basic capabilities. For example, let's say I only want to look at anything with a signal strength, better than minus 50 dBm, let's say. Now let's see if this one responds here pretty quickly. Yep, sorry about that. This is one of the things about using alpha code. There we go. So basically, you can gray out the parts that don't comply with your requirements. And let me scroll down a little so you can see that better. Then besides that, and then we'll take a moment to refresh. There we go. You have the report options. Not sure this one is working yet, but basically you'll have the option of generating reports directly from here, from Link Live, like a PDF, and so on. So basically, the main idea, again, enhancing collaboration and removing the need of having a specific operating system. Basically, anything with a browser you'll be able to use to look at your heat maps. If you just need something simple, hey, give it any guy an air check, Atherscope, have him go out there, collect the data, upload the results to Link Live, and basically make it easier to collaborate between team members. Okie doke. So anyway, guys, I think that covers the basics of the demo. And let me make sure I don't have any other slides for you here. Nope, that's basically it. So before we go to the part that a lot of people is waiting for, the raffle, any questions? Yeah. For V1, it will basically be tap to go. And then on a future version, very short term, we'll be adding a continuous mode. Mm-hmm. That is something that, yes, indeed. This is a bad example. Let me see if I have another example that looks better than this one. But technically, it should look like, in the end, it should look like this. So it should be a real heat map. That's just a bad example I got there, and I apologize for that.
Show up better in AirMagnet.
I'm sorry? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Okay, someone else back there had a question? Yes. For the OptiView XG, no. The OptiView is not a NetAlly product. That's still NetScout. Yeah, that's one of the products that stayed with NetScout. Also, AirMagnet Enterprise stayed with NetScout. So, regretfully, those products, yeah, you'll have to ask them. Yeah, I apologize for not knowing that one.
You mentioned update to survey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good question. So for Wi-Fi Analyzer, being more of a in-depth analysis tool, what we're trying to do is wait for more AX clients to be available so we can capture real AX data and then apply those updates to Wi-Fi Analyzer. Because right now, yeah, we could tell you, okay, and device is AX, but we won't really, with an AC radio, won't really give you much. So, yep.
The Spectrum XT card usable?
It is something I personally have been thinking about. Just in case for those that didn't hear, he's wondering if there will be a possibility of using the Spectrum XT card on the handheld device. They have USB ports after all. It is something that I personally would like to see. Still, we may be moving on a different route with something new. That's as far as I can tell you.
That stagger wall can't hit the map. Is that just a function of the VNC that you're using?
Yes. In this case, I'm connected through the USB port. Besides, so there's a little lag in there. I apologize for that. Yeah, I tried using the WLPC SSID or network, but the VNC was being blocked, so I had to use my USB. Yep.
There you can increase that screen size by having it tethered to a tablet.
That is correct. That's a very good question. Since you can remotely connect to the unit, and basically through VNC or other methods in the future, you technically could take control of the unit remotely and even have a bigger screen for it. For example, one case that I found pretty interesting. I want to thank Tim. I don't know if he's around here, but he mentioned this one. But basically, let's say that you have to survey an operating room in a hospital. And as you may know, it's not anyone that can go into a hospital, mostly or in an operating room, because it's a sterilized environment. And trying to take a bunch of equipment in there with you could be complicated. So one thing that one example of something you could do with this solution is that you could put, let's say, an ethoscope inside a little sterilized bag, hand it over to someone that's authorized to go inside, remotely connect to the unit, and tell the person, stand on that corner there, and then you control the device remotely. Then move to this other corner, you tap, and basically you control without the person that's walking around needing to know what she or he is doing. So that's an interesting use case in there, but it gives you an example of some of the things you could do with remote access and the simplicity of the solution itself. Any other questions? Also, feel free to eat whatever is left and have any of the drinks in there.
Are you committed to make some kind of closer release for AirMagnet on the bakeries?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we are completely aware that we still have lots of AirMagnet customers. So this first release on April is the first one as part of NetAlly, and there will be another one on Q3. So basically, what we're trying to do is have a release at least quarterly at first. As you may imagine, after, let's say, I know, X amount of years without a lot of updates, there's a lot of catch-up to do in there. So it will take time, but we're trying to be more proactive, not only with the handheld products, but also the AirMagnet solution.
Are you going to have more NICs available for the AirMagnet?
It depends. One of the problems we encountered, and one of the reasons other products don't use NICs or recommend them anymore, is that many of the USB NICs, they will give you signal strength, but they don't do a very good job with noise or SNR. And that's the problem we encountered with most of the AC NICs that are out there. So if any AX NICs, when they come out, because there's still not many, if any, out there yet, provide the measurement capabilities that we need, we will consider them at the time. Else, a solution that doesn't require you to use NICs anymore, one of the handhelds. It depends on to what you compare it to. For example, an AirCheck is, I don't know, $2,500, let's say the basic one, and some other solutions on the market. I won't mention the price, but it could be more expensive. So.
Just like for the AirMagnet, we had that card slot thing, and we don't have card slots anymore.
Oh, wow, you're talking about something very old. We stopped selling that almost 2 years ago.
An NetAlly. Come to find out, the NetAlly doesn't do DFS channels.
Yep.
And I called them, so what's the deal? It's going to cost money to get it certified.
Yep, that's correct. And that's why instead of depending on what other vendors provide as hardware and capabilities, we're moving to having a little more control, a solution that allows us to control what the capabilities of the device, like DFS channels, noise, SNR, etc. So we now basically don't need to limit ourselves to the hardware from other vendors.
You have an access time offset now.
That's a good question. I'm not sure about that one, but I'll ask. But yes, I know which option you're talking about. I'm not sure if we'll make it into the survey tool as part of B1. Reality is I may be able to take a look in here. Well, we can do that after the session. But yes, I can check on that one for you. Any other questions? Jokes? Comments? No? Well, then, guys, if there's no more questions, again, if you guys want to participate or help with beta testing, both of the AirMagnet updates and the Etherscope, feel free to let me know after this session. We'll add you to the beta testing list. Also, if you have any other requests for, I know, enhancements or things you would like to see as part of this, there's a lot of development going on. And